You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This is episode 46. Sean and I have a few things to discuss between the two of us. So this episode is just going to be me and him. You guys are going to hear about a few things that are on our minds and a few things that we're working on have been going on in our lives lately.
Well, I guess they don't really have to hear it. I mean, I guess they could skip this episode if they really wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could just like, you know, whenever Sean's voice comes on, just kind of skip ahead a little bit because it's not exactly important.
Because that's useless.
All right. So first of all, I want to take the horn here and talk about a few complaints I have when I'm traveling. I was thinking about this during my last trip, and I have a few bones to pick with the hotel industry. And so hopefully somebody out there some decision maker out there is listening, right?
Hopefully.
And so I have a couple things. First of all, with reservations, specifically for those who need a roll-in shower. And I am getting to the point where I need a roll-in shower. Like, I don't exactly need... Like, if I have some grab bars and a shower chair, I'm good. But a lot of times, a roll-in shower is preferable.
It's probably safer.
So, yeah, safer and just more convenient. So anyway, I call the hotel usually, or somebody calls for me, and we request a roll-in shower. And they're like, "Oh yeah, cool, we've got a roll-in shower."
Somebody calls for you?
Well, if we're making a bunch of reservations.
Oh, okay.
If we're making a bunch of reservations for an event at Farah, somebody, yeah.
Okay.
Mr.
Celebrity.
So we call ahead, reserve. Oh yeah, totally, roll-in shower, and then we get there, and either one, they don't have a roll-in shower room at all, or they're like, yeah, totally. Here's your key. We go up to the room, and I go in this bathroom, and it's not a roll-in shower. It's a tub with like grab bars. They're like, yeah, it's an accessible room. And there's a difference between hearing accessible and like physically like wheelchair accessible, right?
Yep.
And so a lot of the rooms are hearing accessible, which does not make them wheelchair accessible. And sometimes like the door is too small, can't even get into the bathroom, and like anyway, my complaint is that is it not possible to understand what a roll-in shower means compared to a shower with a tub? Like, I show up there in a wheelchair, and they're like, yeah, it's totally an accessible room. I get up there, and it's not.
Well, I think I think you bring up a good point, and the question that you pose is it possible to know? And I'm willing to really have to battle as people just don't really fully know or understand or realize. You know, when they get employed, they're trained like, hey, we have these 7 accessible, quote-unquote, accessible rooms.
Yeah.
So then maybe they just assume they're accessible for all types of disabilities. So when somebody asks, hey, do you have a handicap room or do you have an accessible room? They just assume, yeah, it's going to work for everybody with all sorts of different disabilities.
Yeah, Sean, you are doing a good job of tempering my frustration because at some level, like, we can understand, right? Like, there's a lot to know, and this person doesn't exactly need to know that in their everyday life, right?
But I agree with you. They need to know that for their job. Like it is incredibly frustrating. So I'm with
seriously,
you.
I get there and one time we get there and they're like, I'm sorry, we reserved like 6 months in advance. And we get there and they say, I'm sorry, we can't fulfill your request at this time. I'm like, no, it's not a request. I made a reservation. It was a reservation that I made 6 months ago. And now they're viewing it as a request for like special accommodations. No, that's not what just happened.
Yeah, it's not. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Exactly. And, and also I feel like in these types of situations, if they would just recognize that it's an issue, they try to pretend like it's not a thing. It's like, wait, all right, now you're just being insulting.
Yeah. Do you see this wheelchair I'm sitting in? It doesn't fit through the door. It's a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then so like in that case, they gave us an upgrade to like, they gave me an upgrade to like this suite. It had a really nice balcony, like overlooking this busy street in Palm Springs where we were doing a bike ride. But I was like, okay, that does not help the bathroom.
I still can't shower.
Issue. Yeah, like that's anyway.
Insane.
If somebody could get on that, someone in the hotel industry, that would be great.
I'm willing to bet.
Go ahead.
Before we move on, I bet there's a couple different things that play too. First of all, I've traveled with you a couple times, and we've met in the same city a few times, and we're on a budget to an extent. A lot of Holiday Inns and maybe a couple of Marriotts and a few nice hotels along the way with C-suites. I think if we were willing, if we had the ability to book a room at like Ritz-Carlton for $2,000 a night, we wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
So what we need is somebody in any area of the hotel industry to help us make this better, or simply a sponsor to help us stay at like Four Seasons and Ritz-Carltons from here on out.
Yeah, there we go.
Just give us a call. We'll say sure.
Or, you go to the Holiday Inn, and I'm sure if I had a $100 bill in my pocket, and I was like, here, here, you can have this. If I get a freaking rolling shower, I bet they could make it happen pretty quick.
They probably still aren't going to know what you mean. Like, you want to roll some bread dough in the bathtub? Like, what do you mean rolling?
What is rolling? Yeah. So my request to the listeners out there is, if somebody works in the hotel industry, could you provide us some insight? Why does this keep happening? Like, why is this a problem? It seems like with a little training or understanding, like, I feel like people in the hotel industry that are making reservations need to understand the difference between a rolling shower and a shower with grab bars and a room that is hearing accessible. Like, so if we could get a little insight, that would be awesome.
That would be helpful. It'll help us respond better to these terrible circumstances that we find ourselves in every now and then.
Instead of just thinking that these people are idiots, I might be able to, temper my frustration. All right, here's my next complaint.
Wait, hold on. Let me throw in. Oh, wait. Is your next complaint hotel related?
It is hotel.
Okay,
so we're going to stay in the hotel.
All right.
And we're going to stay in the bathroom, actually, of the hotel. So, my roll-in shower, okay, fine. I finally get my roll-in shower. I'm going to take a shower. I strip down, I start the water, and I'm in there, and I'm about to sit on the seat, and I'm like, oh crap, the shampoo and soap It's all the way across the room on the sink. Like, how stupid is that? So now I have to, like, navigate this super slippery, because I'm not going to sit my naked butt back down on my naked dirty butt. I haven't cleaned it yet, right? Back
That
down
is the
on my
worst
wheelchair.
Picture
So-
I've ever had come through my mind on this show.
So I have to like navigate this super slippery floor. My feet are already wet, and I have to go over and grab the soap and the shampoo from the sink. Why don't they just put it in the shower? That's where you're gonna use it.
Yep.
Like, okay, fine. I can understand the soap, maybe. You know, you can wash your hands with soap. But you're not going to wash your hands with shampoo, okay? Put it in the freaking shower. I've done this so many times. I just forget. Like, I pat myself on the back big time when I finally remember. But, come on.
You know,
Like...
It's true. You know, I think you've got to. Excuse me. I've done it a couple times where I get into a room and I basically walk around, and what doesn't make sense to me, I change it all before I'm comfortable. And I think the soap and shampoo is a pretty common thing because everybody displays all the little containers all pretty and perfectly on the sink. Which
Who cares about display, dude?
I'm
Dude,
not.
I'm talking about functionality.
Yes, I'm with you. So I think maybe you and I should be consultants for functionality for these
Yes.
hotel chains. I don't know, but I'm with you. It's ridiculous.
I actually have been in hotels that put their shampoo and their soap in the shower, and it's just a freaking it's so nice.
You're like, wow, that's
my gosh.
genius.
Yeah,
That's like,
simple.
I don't know. I feel like that'd be like leaving the towels out in the closet. Like, who's gonna use the towel in the closet?
Oh my gosh, that's another one. Like when the towel is across the room and I forget to like bring it over and stick it on the seat of my chair or whatever, and then I'm all wet and I have to navigate over to get a towel. Oh, it's bad. Yeah. So
I feel your
anyway,
pain.
those are my complaints for now. I'm sure I'll have more in the future, but there you go.
So what I'm looking for, Kyle, now that you throw it out there, are pictures of these mistakes.
Wait a minute.
When now we're down, but I mean, now that we're thinking about it and calling it out, on your next trip, if you see an example of this is what I'm talking about, throw it up on Instagram or something so our guests can, or our listeners maybe can relate a little more.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take the picture in the heat of the moment because
Because you're
if I don't
upset.
have any clothes on, like I probably don't have my phone in my I have no pocket, you know, but yeah, when I get into the room, I can take these photos for you, Sean.
Now, I feel like you just made me out to be a weirdo, and I don't appreciate that. You know, I will say, going back to the whole reservation thing and understanding your rooms, when I go down to UCLA, I stay at one hotel typically, and I love it. So don't get me wrong, Hotel Angelino is pretty amazing. It's a great location. And I'm pretty sure they're a fairly independent hotel. It's not owned by a massive chain. Anyway, my last visit down there is a month or so ago, and I'm checking in, and I realized over the years that they have a couple different bathroom styles. There's one with a bathtub and a shower curtain, and then they have some nicer ones that are like a glass wall, shower only, so you barely step over like a 4 or 5 inch lip, and it's just a shower, and they're really kind of nice. So I check in and I'm like, hey, what would it take to get a room with a shower and not the bathtub and blah blah blah. She was like, oh, all of our rooms above this floor have the shower you want and I got you on this floor, so you're good. And I'm like, oh, awesome. Thanks so much. So she was super nice about it and comes like, yeah, I'll take care of you. Don't worry. I got you. Blah, blah, blah. Of course, I go up to that higher floor, and guess what?
No,
I had a
it's not what you
bathtub
wanted.
with the shower curtain. And I'm like, obviously, the whole above floor 4 rule is inaccurate. So I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
dude.
How do you not know
What's-
this?
What's with that? She said it with so much confidence, it
Yes.
sounds like, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, I know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
No, you don't know what you're talking about at all.
So then later on in the evening, I go out and have dinner. I come back and there's a different person at the counter. And I'm like, hey, I stay here often, so I know I'll be back. Can you tell me when I call you guys to make a reservation, what do I have to do to get a room with a shower? Like, is there do we call that a certain name? Does it have a certain class? Is it a little more expensive? Like, what do you call that room and how do I get it? And he's like, oh, just ask for me. I'll take care of you. And I'm like, well, I know that's not going to work, but thanks. So I'm like,
Yeah.
just tell me how to get a room that I want.
There you go. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but that's what we deal with. That's the state of affairs at this moment.
That's life in America, I guess.
So live
Actually,
beyond your circumstances, Sean.
That probably wasn't a
Okay.
good statement.
Nice. So I want to move on because we have some really empowering and awesome things to talk about. Sean, I wanted to hear. I know you've been talking to me about it a little bit, but you haven't talked all that publicly about it yet because I realize it's just kind of getting underway and you're planning it. But talk to our listeners about the Determinants 14er challenge, or I'm not sure what you're calling it yet.
Well, as of right now, this moment of recording, we haven't come up with a cool name for it yet, but that might change by the time this comes out. So most of you know, in response to being diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia years ago, I launched a nonprofit called Determinants. It's a made-up word, a hybrid of determination and resilience. And Determinants was really born out of a day hike I had gone on with a couple of friends. We were just a few hours, short hike, easy hike. We were just trying to get away from life and contemplate what we were up against, what I was up against, and kind of how to move forward. And after doing this hike, we played with some ideas and we went on a couple runs also in this period of a month or two, and really we began to see that other people were inspired to get out and do things and move beyond their circumstance. So Determinants was born with this idea to just simply help people get outside and accomplish what they want to do, despite their disability or their physical impairments or whatever they were up against. Anyway, like Kyle said, we're going to launch or kick off our hiking challenge, which is really the original idea behind Determinants. We want to conquer the California 14s. So the idea over the next couple of years is to take a team of people to the peak of the 14 tallest mountains in California. They're all over 14,000 feet. This would include Mount Shasta and Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney happens to be the tallest peak or the highest peak in the continental U.S. So the challenge is to begin hiking and to get our broken, frail bodies to the peak just because I believe we can. So starting out this year in August, we're going to tackle White Mountain. So we'll take a team of people to the peak of White Mountain. It's one of those 14ers, and I don't know if I should say this out loud, but it happens to be one of the easiest 14ers, which I think is a decent place to start to kind of get our feet wet and see what we're up against over the next couple of years.
So how difficult okay, easy is a relative term, right?
This is true.
How if somebody's able-bodied and they're just hiking, how long should it take them on average, you think?
Completely able-bodied, most hike guides are suggesting 7 to 9 hours. It's upwards of a 12 to 15 mile hike, depending on the terrain, weather, and the vehicle that you're driving. You can drive quite a bit on a dirt path before the trailhead. So, depending on how close you can get, like if you're in a truck or a Jeep, you can probably get a little further. But if you're willing to drive, at worst, the hike is 15 miles in and out, so 7.5 or so one way.
Wow, and I imagine, I mean, Sean, you don't walk straight normally.
Yeah.
I imagine it might take a little bit longer than 7.5 or 9 or whatever the average is, right?
Yeah, I'm sort of expecting closer to 12 for me and anybody willing to hike with me.
So I imagine you're going to start at like 6 a.m. or something just to make sure it gets done?
Well, not the worst. Another part of this trip, these mountains, a handful of them, including Whitney, are in the southern Sierras, and there's not a lot of towns or cities anywhere near. So the closest town is Bishop, and from the trailhead of White Mountain and the town of Bishop, it's about an hour and a half drive. So we're going to have to drive down the day before, and we'll get up at like 4 a.m., so we can drive an hour and a half and start hiking around 6 a.m.
Nice. So Bishop is kind of like base camp, right? So
for most.
You launch from there.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Well, that's really exciting. And so there's 14 mountains in California that are over 14,000 feet?
Correct.
Wow. You've got a big task. How long do you think this will take you, the whole thing? Sorry, I keep interrupting.
Okay. This first mountain is 14,200 and some odd. So this is probably one of the lower ones, I guess, or one of the easier ones. Really, it's just a really long hike. There's nothing technical about it. But obviously, you've got the elevation and you're exposed to sun the entire time. Of course, there's no trees or anything up there. So it can be taxing on your body. I expect 5 years or less. I don't think that I'll be able to hit more than 3. So shoot, maybe even 6 years. If I guess it just depends. Also, too, on permits. Some of these mountains require permits, and they're a lottery system, especially Whitney, because everybody wants to climb Whitney. So that was where we started this year. Our lottery, we lost or we failed in the lottery. So we went to Plan B, which is White Mountain. So it really depends on the permit process and how healthy my legs stay.
Awesome. So I think another aspect of this, right, is that you are inviting people to come with you, right? And
correct.
Choosing some specific people that really want to make a big part of their goal.
Yeah, and they want to push the envelope a little bit. I think a lot of people like to hike, but the real mission behind Determinants is to help people cross those finish lines that normally wouldn't or couldn't on their own. Maybe they are a little bit disabled or a little bit this or a little bit that. And so the idea is to put together a team of strong, healthy, able-bodied folks and maybe use adaptive equipment or whatever it takes to help somebody like Kyle or like, I don't know, name somebody, to help them reach
Sean.
the peak. Say again?
Sean.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I'm at a point, I just need walking sticks probably. I don't need expensive equipment. But the idea, like I said, is, if somebody is, somewhat paralyzed or having some struggle or dealing with a disability, and they otherwise wouldn't be able to stand on top of White Mountain or Mount Whitney, and they want to, we want to help make that a reality.
Awesome. So if people are interested, can they contact you and see what the deal is?
Yeah, there's the teams are always going to be limited. That's kind of forestry rules. But yeah, definitely we're still open and we're still building this first team. The team will change every year, so always going to be opportunity. I would encourage you to email me, and I guess the best way to do that is, well, let's just stick with the Two Disabled Dudes emails. That'll be easiest. Go to the website or just email thedudes@twodisableddudes.com.
Nice. Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing all the updates on this challenge and watching you guys get it done. So that's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Thank you. Thanks for asking. So I know, Kyle, we not too long ago we mentioned that you've been writing a book. Where are we at with that?
Yeah.
What's the latest update on your coloring book?
Picture book. No, I've been working with a writer for the last 2.5 years to write a book. I tried to write for years, probably 5 or 6, on and off, and it turned out to just be a bunch of words on the page. Like it was, nobody would want to read it. So I started working with this really talented writer, and we developed a really awesome relationship, and he put together we did together. Like he would call me and we'd have a long, conversation, and then he would go back and write a bunch of stuff. And anyway, it turned into a book. A few episodes ago, I mentioned that I'd been working with agent finally, and we found a publisher. Holy cow.
Well, what?
And they call themselves a small publisher, but they were the original publishers of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, wow.
And that, I'm pretty sure that's one of the biggest books ever. Like, it's a series now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But, so they're small, but they know what they're doing, which I think it's a pretty good fit for me. And, so the book itself, though, it's a memoir based on the ride I did in 2007 from San Diego to Memphis, Tennessee.
Nice.
And just kind of telling all those stories and how it relates to discovery of a rare diagnosis, and sort of outlook on the future, how somebody deals with this, like in my head, how I dealt with it, the researchers I met along the way, and the role of the patient in the research process. And so there's a whole bunch of things that we talk about, but really the structure of it is around my bike ride in 2007. So
Nice.
So I just submitted the manuscript to the publisher yesterday.
Dang, that is that's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. I'm nervous though too, because it's a funny thing that happens, and maybe I should have expected this, but I didn't really. Like over the last 2 weeks, as we were preparing to going through making last minute edits and stuff, I was just thinking of all the stuff that I did not include, and all the people that I did not recognize, because really my journey has not been entirely about me, right? It's been about all the people that helped me along the way. I think we can all relate to that. It's definitely a team effort, and so just trying to recognize and explain like all the little things that happen, but also make the book like an easy read and not really bogged down by all the little details and stuff. Sure. So anyway, it's been a really interesting process, and ultimately I'm super proud of the book, and I'm really excited for everyone to read it. It should be out in February of 2019.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I don't know the publishing process yet. So, maybe it'll be later than that, but that's what we're shooting for right now. So,
that's exciting.
Yeah, exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How many chapters are dedicated to me?
Oh, see, that you just reminded me of another thing I need to include in the book.
You're one of those I didn't even think about. Well, that's cool. Man. Nice. Congratulations, fan. I'm super excited for you. I'm excited to look at the cover of that book.
Yeah.
I'm probably not really interested in reading it. It's just words on a page. But no, I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
You know my buddy Kelly. He is working on the cover design.
Oh, nice.
So,
all right.
He's going to produce a few covers and submit them to the publisher, and then they ultimately will have the choice of what they use, whether they use one of his or whether they want to give it a shot and come up with their own stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm learning about the whole process. I had no idea before, and it's another interesting thing to learn about. So
that's cool.
So one of the other things I wanted to mention is that we're heading to Australia. Sean went to Australia last year. And the Ataxian movie played a few times, and Sean was able to do some Q&As and meet the community over there in Australia, the FA community. This year, we're partnering with them they're doing all the work to hold Ride Ataxia Australia in Melbourne in October. And we're really excited to head over there and do that ride with them.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. Kyle and I will head out there in October, and we'll spend a few days with the community there doing a couple different things. Actually, Q&A, I think the film may be somewhere, a symposium. In fact, we're even going to be able to, hopefully, the plan is to record a podcast, an episode that we can play here for you folks shortly after visiting Australia. So, yeah, lots of cool things looking forward to. And, of course, I loved it last year when I went. Melbourne is such a pretty city. The folks there were phenomenal, so cool, a lot of good people. So I'm looking forward to going back and hanging out on that giant island of a continent.
Yeah. Do you get to call it an island?
I don't know.
I wonder how big. Like, I bet there's a threshold for like what you can call an island.
Yeah,
do you know?
Yeah, you're probably right. It's considered a continent, but it's also like an island. It's just huge.
Totally. Sean, this was awesome to kind of catch up, kind of to be able to vent a little bit, and also to learn about the California 14 challenge that Determinants is doing the next few years. I'm really excited about that. Lots of good stuff coming up.
Sure.
So thanks for hanging out with me today, and we will talk again in a couple weeks.
Thanks for tuning in today, listeners. Have a great week. Actually, I guess great couple weeks. And like Kyle said, we'll be back soon.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com. And please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.